and I'm pleased to announce we've exceeded our quarterly
You
targets.
believe we have to listen to go on about numbers we already know?
I think we all heard that. We're going to take a brief break and we'll continue.
You know, we've all been there. That moment during a Zoom call where you think you're muted and you let out a frustrated sigh, maybe complain about something to whoever's in the room with you, or make a comment you definitely wouldn't want your boss to hear. It's become one of those universal experiences of modern work life, right? We've normalized it to the point where, wait, am I muted? Has become a running joke in offices everywhere. Before we get started, where are you tuning in from? Drop your country or state in the comments. And hey, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time, because what's about to happen next will leave you speechless, and you won't want to miss stories like this. But what happened at a major tech company last month goes way beyond an embarrassing hot mic moment. This isn't about someone accidentally sharing their lunch order or complaining about a deadline. This is about how one unmuted microphone, one moment of what someone thought was private conversation, cost them a $300,000 a year job and potentially their entire career. And honestly, when you hear what actually happened, it's hard to feel much sympathy. Let me walk you through this story because it's got layers. It's about workplace culture, about the false sense of privacy that remote work gives us, and ultimately about how people reveal who they really are when they think no one's watching. The incident took place at a well-known technology company. I'm not naming them here because the focus should be on what happened, not on dragging a specific organization through the mud. What matters is that this was a successful, progressive company with all the diversity and inclusion statements you'd expect. They had the programs, the training, the whole 9 yards. The employee in question, let's call him David, had been with the company for about 7 years. He'd climbed the ladder steadily, moving from a mid-level position into senior management. By all accounts, he was good at his job. His performance reviews were solid. He managed a team of about 15 people. He was making just over $300,000 a year when you factored in his base salary, bonuses, and stock options. Not bad, right? The company's CEO, who I'll call Marcus, had been leading the organization for about 3 years. Marcus was one of those CEOs who was very visible within the company. He wasn't the type to hide in a corner office. He did regular town halls, he'd pop into team meetings occasionally, and he was active on the company's internal communication platforms. By all accounts, employees generally liked him. He was approachable, he listened, and he'd made some genuinely positive changes to the company culture. Oh, and one more detail that matters here. Marcus is black. This is relevant for reasons that will become painfully obvious in just a moment. So here's what went down. It was a Tuesday morning, around 10 a.m. Pacific time. The company was having one of its regular all-hands meetings, the kind where leadership shares updates about the business, talks about new initiatives, celebrates wins, that sort of thing. These meetings had become monthly fixtures since the pandemic pushed everyone remote, and even as some people returned to offices, the company kept them going because they had employees scattered across different cities. There were probably 200 people on this particular Zoom call. Some had their cameras on, others didn't. Some were clearly multitasking. You could tell by the way their eyes were moving or the occasional typing sounds. It's just how these large virtual meetings go. You're there, you're listening, but you're not necessarily giving it your undivided attention unless something particularly relevant to your work comes up. Marcus was about 20 minutes into his presentation. He was talking about the company's quarterly results, which had been pretty strong. The company had beaten its revenue targets, and he was thanking teams for their hard work. Pretty standard stuff, honestly. Nothing controversial, nothing that would typically get anyone worked up. David had his camera off. Later, when the company investigated, they'd learn that he was working from home that day, sitting in his home office. His microphone was muted, or at least he thought it was muted. This is where everything goes wrong. The moment everything changed. What happened next was captured not just by the meeting recording, but by the dozens of people who were on the call and heard it in real time. As Marcus was speaking, there was a sudden interruption. David's microphone wasn't actually muted, and his voice came through loud and clear to everyone on the call. According to multiple witnesses, he said something along the lines of, "Can you believe we have to sit here and listen to this racial slur go on and on about numbers we already know?" The silence that followed was deafening. People who were multitasking suddenly snapped to attention. In the little Zoom gallery view, you could see people's faces change in real time: shock, disbelief, disgust. Marcus himself stopped mid-sentence. You could see him process what had just happened, his expression moving from confusion to understanding to something that looked like profound disappointment. Someone, probably a meeting moderator, muted David's line immediately. But the damage was done. You can't unhear something like that. You can't put those words back in the bottle. For a few seconds, nobody said anything. It was one of those horrible, suspended moments where everyone's brain is trying to catch up with what just happened. Then Marcus, to his credit, composed himself remarkably well. He said something like, "I think we all heard that. We're going to take a brief break, and then we'll continue." The meeting was paused. What happened in the next few hours was, by all accounts, organized chaos. The company's HR department went into crisis mode. They had to figure out exactly what had happened, who had said it, and how to respond. Thankfully, or maybe unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, it wasn't hard to figure out who the voice belonged to. The meeting recording showed that David's name had popped up, briefly, as speaking before he was muted. David apparently realized what had happened almost immediately. According to sources, he started sending messages, first to his direct supervisor, then to HR, then even trying to reach Marcus directly. He was apologizing profusely, saying it was a mistake, that he didn't mean it, that he was under stress, all the usual things people say when they're caught doing something indefensible. But here's the thing. There's really no walking back from something like this. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This wasn't misspeaking or using the wrong word. This was a deliberate use of a racial slur directed at the CEO of the company. It revealed something about how David really thought, about what he really believed, about who he was when he thought nobody was listening. The company moved quickly. By the end of that same day, David was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Within 72 hours, he was terminated for cause. His $300,000 a year job was gone. His stock options, which hadn't vested yet, were forfeited. His reputation in the industry was destroyed. Word travels fast in tech circles, and while the company didn't publicly name him, enough people knew that his name was circulating. Now, you might be wondering, was this an overreaction? Did the company go too far by firing him so quickly? I mean, it was one comment, right? Everyone makes mistakes, don't they? Here's where we need to talk about what this really represents. This wasn't just about one word, as horrible as that word is. This was about what it revealed about David's character and his fitness to be in a leadership position at any company, let alone one that claims to value diversity and inclusion. Think about it. David was managing a team of 15 people. What are the chances that some of those people were black or people of color? Pretty good, statistically speaking, especially in a diverse tech company. How were they supposed to feel knowing that their manager, the person responsible for their career development, their performance reviews, their advancement opportunities, harbored these kinds of views? Even if his entire team happened to be white, how could they trust him? How could anyone in the company trust him? Leadership isn't just about technical skills or hitting targets. It's about judgment, character, and the ability to treat all people with respect and dignity. David had shown that he lacked these fundamental qualities. And let's be real about something else, too. This probably wasn't the first time David had used language like this. People don't just randomly bust out racial slurs in moments of frustration unless that's part of their regular vocabulary. This was who he was. He'd just managed to hide it successfully for 7 years until one technological mishap exposed him.
Third, there are consequences for our actions. David probably spent 7 years thinking he'd successfully hidden his real views. Maybe he thought he was clever, playing the game, saying the right things in meetings while thinking something very different. But one technological slip-up exposed everything, and now he's paying a price that will affect him for years, possibly decades. Fourth, for companies, swift, decisive action matters. The company's quick response to this incident sent a clear message about their values and about what they would and wouldn't tolerate. If they had hemmed and hawed, if they'd given David a slap on the wrist or tried to sweep it under the rug, it would have damaged their culture and their ability to retain and attract diverse talent. And finally, we need to be honest about the persistence of racism, even in supposedly progressive industries and companies. Tech likes to think of itself as forward-thinking and inclusive, but incidents like this remind us that racism hasn't gone away. It's just gotten better at hiding, until it doesn't. This story is uncomfortable. It's the kind of thing that makes us all squirm a little, that makes us think about our own workplaces and wonder what people might say when they think they're not being heard. But discomfort isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes, discomfort is what pushes us to be better, to hold ourselves and others to higher standards. David lost a $300,000 a year job because of his own choices and his own words. It's tempting to focus on the technology failure, the unmuted microphone, but that's really just the mechanism of exposure. The real story is about character, about values, and about the price we pay when we reveal ourselves to be something other than what we claim to be. For Marcus, the CEO, this had to be incredibly painful. No one should have to experience that kind of dehumanization, especially from someone in their own organization. But his response, dignified, clear, and action-oriented, showed real leadership. For the company, this was a test of their stated values, and by most accounts, they passed. They didn't make excuses, they didn't protect a senior employee just because he'd been there for years. They did what was right, even though it was probably complicated and messy. And for the rest of us, maybe this serves as a reminder to check ourselves, to think about the words we use, the attitudes we hold, and the way we treat others, all the time, not just when we know people are listening. Because eventually, whether through a hot mic or some other means, who we really are has a way of coming to light. That $300,000 salary? It turns out the price of keeping it was pretty simple. Basic human decency and respect. David couldn't meet that standard, and now he's paying the price. It's an expensive lesson, but maybe it's one more people needed to hear.